Hey, so let's jump into this week's news section. And in spite of all the goofy headlines, this is actually a little bit more serious, but it's a little bit different this week than I usually do, because a lot of times I bring up really controversial things and I bring about things that make our stomachs go in knots and all of that. And I don't want to do that this week. This week is actually a good news piece. And I just came across it in the last few days, but it was published on October 15th over at foxnews.com. And the headline is Saudi Arabia opens tourism to ancient biblical sites. And, quote, the atmosphere is changing, unquote, is how the headline reads. And going on from there, it says, as Saudi Arabia increasingly opens up to tourists, a travel group in the country started offering this week a first ever Christian tour of rare sites, promising participants to a close-up look at a controversial location believed to be the real Mount Sinai, the mountain where, according to the Bible, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. Now that we're getting into Shemot and getting into Exodus, this is all part of the wilderness journey. Well, this is what Saudi Arabia is doing. This is Saudi Arabia, which has been closed for tourism the last several decades, has a dismal record of human rights, decided to give tourist visas on the heels of the second delegation of evangelical leaders from America, hosted by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman last year and earlier this year. The atmosphere in Saudi Arabia is changing, said Rhonda Sand, owner of U.S.-based travel company Living Passages. They are hard at work developing the country for Western tourism. Living Passages is taking a group of 25 people this week, so that was back in October, through Jethro's caves in the land of Midian.
Oh, how cool.
Believed to be ancient Midian. The tour will be led by Joel Richardson, the author of Mount Sinai in Arabia, The True Location Revealed. This portends to be the most significant new archaeological site in modern history, Richardson told Fox News. We're tremendously blessed that the Saudi government is allowing us to visit the kingdom to see some of its rich historical and geographical treasures. Richardson, who said this is one of the most faith-stirring experiences of his life, explained tourists will be flocking to see the historical mountain and other sites covered in a short documentary, Finding the Mountain of Moses, the Real Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, by Ryan Morrow, who will be leading a tour in February. And most notably, the group is visiting the Jabal el-Lawz mountain in the ancient land of Midian. Early Jewish, Christian, and Bedouin traditions have long attested this site to be the real Mount Sinai. The controversial theory contests the traditional locations in Egyptian Sinai Peninsula. On the northwest side of the mountain is the split rock of Horeb, a massive stone several stories tall, split down the middle with evidence of water erosion at its base. And so anyway, these are some things that are opening up. This is exciting to me, knowing all of these different things. And it says also that this week's tourists will visit the town of ancient well held to be where Moses met his wife Zipporah, daughter of Jethro, after fleeing Egypt. And the group will explore the ruins of Dedan, Wadi Tayyib along the Red Sea coast, and Taimah, where Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar may have occasionally stayed. So I just think this is exciting. And then they have a smart city that they're developing that should be fully functional by 2025 so that you can go to these tourism areas. Wow. It blew me away when I came across this article. It blew me away because it's been completely closed off. And I think it was Ron Wyatt and who's the other guy that's actually talked about these locations? Michael Rood. Yeah, Michael Rood's done video documentaries on this, and where they actually went in, and some people actually had to sneak in cameras. Somehow were able to get permission from the Saudi government to go in, but they took pictures and video of where the true Mount Sinai is, where it's even at the top, at the peak, where it is it looks like it's been burned, and it's dark at the peak where the cloud would have come down. And there at its base, they actually found where the altar was, where they put together these large stones, and
it's still somewhat intact.
And somewhat intact. And I think there has been evidence of the pottery that had been broken in the wilderness that relates back to the Exodus. And so that's really interesting to me. I wanted to bring it up. Sandi, I want to go on a trip to that area and see some of these amazing things. It's there in Mount Sinai, Mount Horeb, which is an alternative name, is where Elijah, when he was fleeing Jezebel, went all the way down to hear the voice of the Lord. And there are so many other things. So, Mark, what are your thoughts about this? The opening of tourism for this area to be able to see the wilderness.
Well, they pushed this to open already because the state of Arizona is also opening their own Mount Sinai theme park in May, just in time for tourists to come through. So, no, I'm just joking. It's fake. But this is, I remember them going through, and I've seen pictures and exactly word for word what you just described there 10 years or so ago, of people that had gone in there and they weren't supposed to. Saudi Arabia didn't allow people to come in there, but this area has been thought of and almost assured that it's the real place for years and years and years and years, because I can remember, I've seen literally pictures 10, 15 years ago of what they're talking about.
Right.
I would assume that Saudi Arabia, the government does not need any money whatsoever at all. So it's not like they're opening this up to tourists so that they can bring in a little extra cash to run the government, because it's Saudi Arabia. So what their motive is for this, because Saudi Arabia is 100% Muslim and their government's Muslim, everything about them is Muslim. I don't know what their motivation for finally opening this is, but that would be an interesting story to me. Is what, Sandi?
I just said it goes back to our question of why.
Yeah, it goes back to the question of why, because in the whole report you just said there, I didn't really hear a why they're opening, just that they are and what the description of everything is. That description, along with pictures, has been around for a long time, word for word. So it makes me wonder, why, if they were so heavy about, being extremely illegal to the point where planes fly over it on a regular basis, why are they now opening this up to tourists?
Medua or Lama.
Yeah. Well, considering the kingdom of Saud and all of their oil fields and that type of thing, they highly protected those oil fields, and they have highly protected those. They don't want anybody flying over. But their nation, their kingdom, has been closed. It is almost been run like a Eastern European Stasi-led communist type of country. That totalitarian type of regime, and where travel is limited. You have to have papers. You have to have all of those type of things. Around these sites, they put fences and gave warnings that it was forbidden to cross into and even to explore it. And they're just in complete wilderness areas. And I've always thought, well, what are they hiding? That's what my thought is what have they been hiding? What type of narrative are they trying to protect? This Prince Solomon, who is expected to take over as king of Saudi Arabia, he is supposed to inherit the kingdom. He has led a lot of reforms which it has included within Saudi Arabia allowing women to drive, and bringing in movie theaters and other types of entertainments for the people. This is a breakthrough from the way the kingdom has been run in the past. So these type of reforms are going on, and it seems like he's wanting to show Saudi Arabia in a little bit softer light among in the world. So to build a better view of their kingdom. But there's also the aspect, and it does have to do with oil, because there is a move to shift from the petrodollar, and America has, and the US dollar has been directly tied to the Saudi oil, and which has set the dollar prices as part of the world basket of currencies. The US dollar is the big boy in that. If they start to shift from that petrodollar, as America has become the largest oil producer in the world, and the dollar is not finding strength, then so goes the value of what the Saudi kingdom has. And I think they're trying to diversify in other realms. And I think there's an opening up. In fact, part of that opening up to alternate industries is how Saudi Arabia is trying to develop in the tech market and explore their ability to in technological computer, AI technology, that type of thing. Those are some things that they've been doing because their diversification is big. And they've actually been selling off portions of Aramco. So I think it's part of a process that they are trying to shift with the current times as well. But I think this is significant in allowing people to go down and visit these tourist sites, just as Israel has been opened up. Oh, those are my thoughts on it.
Can we take it? Do we have time to take it to a spiritual level? In other words, this site specifically, of all the other places, is if it really is, and everybody's saying this is really the place, it actually proves a Judeo-Christian ethic or belief system rather than a Muslim belief system, because the Muslims split off long in Abraham, with Abraham long before the people that were in Egypt. Those are the people of we have the people of Ishmael and Isaac. These are the people of Isaac, see? And so Mount Sinai is going to prove that lineage rather than Ishmael's lineage. And so since Saudi Arabia is of Ishmael's lineage, then why would they want to promote something that's going to prove the opposite of what it's not so much? I don't know. I'm just asking the question, just hypothetically. Why would they? Go ahead, Sandy.
Well, I was going to say, if you remove the tradition of Armageddon and go to Har Moed, which is what it says when you go back into some transcripts from long ago, Har Moed, the mountain of the Lord, and that's where the armies gather around the mountain where God's people are, and you'll hear some teaching from that by Steve Mutrian.
Right.
Like that.
I do know that.
Then you've got that spiritual significance. That whole place has been opened up for Yah's people legally to gather. And of course, I believe Yah will bring us there. Wow. And so you have that spiritual long term, and that's where the armies of the Lord will gather around Har Moed, the mountain of the Lord, not Armageddon.
Mountain of the festivals. Moed festivals.
The mountain, I misspoke. The mountain of the festivals. Mount Sinai.
So would you say that that our God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, literally had his hand in opening the views of this Saudi president to allow this to happen so that the future events can happen? Is that what you're saying?
I said potentially that Could be, yes.
That could be what's going on. Is that now? It's real interesting. Are you guys familiar with the show on Netflix called Messiah?
Yes.
Have you watched it?
I'm not all the way through it yet. I was going to actually.
We've only watched the first 2 episodes, so don't.
Well, I was gonna suggest, because I want to discuss it on the next chapter.
I'm interested, but I've only got the first 2 shows.
I'm like,
it's interesting to me that this guy stands on the steps going up to the mosque and talks about peace, talks about all this, and it put my mind in that if Yeshua was here today, if he talked to Muslims, he talked to them in what's the Muslim language?
In Arab, in Arabic.
In Arabic, so is it Arabic really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it depends on what country they're in, of course.
Okay.
But Arabic,
anyway, we're taking too much time. It just all this story stair steps into a million other things.
And then it stair steps is at the end. Messiah, and again, I was going to suggest, just stay tuned, folks, because we're going to have one of our segments in the future. Future is going to be on this. And I'm going to let Mark bring it forth too. So,
yeah, well,
the movie segment.
Oh, movie segment.
Yeah,
you want to know what movie I watched this week? Is that what you're at?
No. The Messiah on the movie segment of our show.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about it. That's good.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.